Hi guys, right, what I want to quickly show you today is how I've come up with a theme tune for the channel, and it's basically a song that I wrote on SoundTracker 2.5 on my original Amiga 500 back when I was a kid. Now I remember getting SoundTracker 2.5 from Megabytes, my local store, and it's towards the end of my sort of indulgence, I guess, in the Amiga period. Well, not towards the end, but one of the final years. And for the first time, I saw them actually distributing public domain software from the shop, and basically all you had to pay for was the price of the discs, which were I think about £1 each at the time. And they would copy whatever you wanted from public domain onto the discs and give you the discs. It was one of the young guys that was he was doing that. And that's where I originally got SoundTracker 2.5. Now these have been written retrospectively from, so I've downloaded ADFs from online. I'll put some links in the description. And then written them across using Amiga Explorer and my cable here. Onto original floppy disks, so I can actually do this on the Amiga just like I did back in the day. It's a real pain in the backside on a one disc Amiga 500, but that's what I had, and you forget the disc swapping that goes on. And this is one of those packages, depending on when you put another disc in, it can really go into a bit of a skits when it's trying to ask for the other disc. But anyway, let's talk about this track, the music. Hopefully by now you would have heard it, because I'll be putting this video out retrospectively, but I want to show you the sort of thought process and that went into writing this tune. I'm not a musician. I don't play any kind of instrument. Although I did tinker later with electric guitar. I could always just pick things like the A-Team theme tune, just the melody, and play that on a piano, stuff like that. So I guess I can play by ear, but single finger. Right, let's have a look. So basically what I've loaded up here is distorted dist guitar, which is distorted guitar. That sounds like this. And I remember distinctly, it's only coming out of one channel because that's where I am here, okay? And if I move that across to there, then it would be the other channel, that side. And that's how this works. So I distinctly remember using this sound. There's a couple of other samples I can't find, like Orchestra Hit and stuff like that, but and I'm not going to bore you with the whole composition of the entire piece, but really where this sort of main riff has come from. And this is the riff that I've remembered since I wrote it back in the day, and has stuck with me ever since. Okay. Now I'm going to make some assumptions here. What I think would have happened was this, and I'm just going to see. In fact, I'll play it for you. Basically, in this, if you're just messing around, this becomes your piano keyboard. So this becomes your piano keyboard, and you've got your sharps, which is of course not every single key, so some are spaces. You get the idea, okay? I used to love playing the James Bond theme tune, but not properly. And this is where I think this probably came from. I was probably messing about with something like this, but I remember distinctly coming up with this thing that goes like this. And it wouldn't have been this fast originally. You get the idea, then it goes back up to there. And just playing about with that, thinking, hey, that sounds kind of cool. That's before I really knew, and this all would have been on a sunny, summer's day when I've got all my friends are busy and I've got nothing better to do, that I would have come up with this kind of stuff. So what I want to show you now is the next part of the process, because you can actually edit the track. And then what that then does is basically whatever I press becomes part of the sequence, okay? This isn't a tutorial how to do it. This is just, you know, what we're going to end up with, how I eventually ended up with, oh my goodness, that sounds cool, and what can I do with this? Oh. I hate it when that happens, because then I can't remember where I was. But let me just play. Imagine this. I've been playing about, and then I work out how to edit, and I've purposely not put in any timing as I did back in the day, and then I've just found the play button. So if I go exit there and then play. And I remember when I did that, it was like, oh my goodness, that sounds epic. Let's just go from the top again, it's going to be easier. So, up to the top. It's just the way my mind works. Edit. And now if we play that, then that would loop round, because I've only got one pattern here. So if I change the length to 2 and go to pattern 1, right, so now I'm on pattern 1. The cool thing is, as you can see, it fits a pattern perfectly, which is great. Let's try that. There we go. Back to the first one. So the loop works. You get the idea? And then I want to go up to sample 2, and I want to load a bass drum. So I'm going to do a record just so I can get it in my head, hey, where it is. It's so easy to miss when you're playing at this speed, so I'm going to get rid of those last couple, because really what I want to do is just have a indication of, because I messed up some there, of what the duration is. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I went too early. That's what I did. It was just 1, 2. So my method was right in the first place. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I go edit there, 2, 3, 4, and then you have to jump down, so it's evens all the time, obviously. 2, 3, 4. 2, so that's 3 in between, 3 in between. Here's what I did at the start, I thought. 2, 3, 4, 2. No, that's wrong. No, that's wrong. There. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bang, 2, 3, 4. Bang, 2, 3, 4. Bang, 2, 3, 4. Let's just see what that sounds like. So you've got the bass. drops out there. I changed something in the drum sample then, that's weird. Anyway. But you get the idea, then I'd add other percussion in. Quick update on where we're at this. You would have heard the main riff, and I think I started messing about with the drum beat. And back in the day, I just sort of did a simple drum build, and then it was in with the main riff, and then that was pretty much it. But what I've added, just sort of quickly play you through the samples that I've got playing here. There we go. So we've got the guitar, as we know. That's for the main riff. I've got a bit of a bass. I think it's about there. So in terms of where you're looking for that, so the main riff is here, this area here. That's the electric guitar, and then this is the most of the drums. So you got the bass there, I think, and then I've also got a snare in there as well. Maybe it's that. Maybe that's where it is. Okay. There's a cowbell at play here as well. There's a crash, sort of like that. And then there's also something I didn't do. Now, the reason why I've added a bass in is because I recall back in the day, I sort of recorded back to tape what I'd done and played it to a few friends, and they were like, man, this is awesome. This is the sort of thing you'd hear in a rave. I don't know that it was that awesome, but I said, what's missing is a bass line, building a bass line. So I've sort of chucked in a bass as well. That kind of thing. So where we're at is this. So that's it, and it just loops around. It's just 2 screens worth, basically. Okay, and it's interesting. I'm going at this like I did back in the day. I'm really not looking stuff up on the web. I'm sorting it out as I go, and I'm learning a lot more about this section up here, which is basically where you set the order of events. So position 0 is now a lot leaner track, and that's the first position it's going to play. Then it goes on to the next, then it goes on to the next. So now I'm able to create my build. So even though I didn't write pattern 2 first, I wrote pattern 1 and 0 first, which were the ones that you heard before. I've created pattern 2, and I'm going to create a pattern 3 and a pattern 4, and then I can tinker about with how many times they repeat. So a bit of background information as to how that works. So the opening build is starting to sound like this. And I'll stop it there because it's not finished. I've got to do another screen. But yeah, just to keep you, so I'm opening with the bass and cowbell, because you can never have too much cowbell, and then we'll build from there. So that's how that bit's coming along. So I've got a build, goes into the main riff with a bit of tinkering about, plays the main riff. It was playing it through twice, but I've shortened it, and then it ends, and it's important in this kind of thing to, it loops really well, but it's important to actually remember to have an empty end if you want your song to have a beginning and an end, which is what I've done. Like I said, I've had to refigure all this out without the use of the internet, because I didn't use the internet back in the day. This is your position, so the order in which things run, it goes position 1, position 2, position 3, position 4, depending on what your length is set to. So this will go up to 7 positions. And then the pattern is the number of the pattern that you've created that plays in that position. So the patterns don't have to play in order, and this down here is a pattern. Okay, so the current pattern we're on is empty, which because it's my last one, but because it hasn't jumped there yet. So basically, I start playing pattern, what is actually pattern 2, then I play pattern 3, then I play pattern 4, there's a mozzie here, and then I play, pattern 5, and then I play pattern 0, which is the first one we created, then pattern 1, which is the second one I created, and then into pattern 6, which is an empty, and that's your 7 patterns, because it's 0 to 6 is 7. Now, what you would have missed out on there is basically there's a bit of left and right. You would have just heard it as a change in tone because of this microphone, but there is a left and right going on there as well. So obviously that's what you'll hear when you listen through your headphones to the normal intro. My next step from here is to record that into the MP3 player and then edit it into my intro, and then it's done and I'm excited. And look, I can't begin to explain how this is literally something that I messed about with, like I showed you at the beginning. Back in the day, came up with this riff, and it's stuck with me all these years. I haven't written any other song. Me and my mate had a tinker about on a keyboard and wrote a couple of things, and a guitar and wrote a couple of things, but this is the only piece of music I've ever written. It's not particularly good, but the fact that it's stuck with me, every time I've come across a keyboard, this is one of the things I've tried to bang out, and especially if you're on a weighted keyboard, it's almost impossible to do the speed the Amiga can do it at, and those special tones that the Amiga has, especially when SoundTracker 2.5 or ProTracker was what you're into. This has been great getting back into this, and this is why I've wanted to use this as my intro. Okay everyone, it's a few days later since the last bit of this video, but you play things back and you go, actually, do you know what, I'm not happy with it. So I've changed a couple of things, which I'll quickly take you through. First and foremost is I've changed the sound of the bass drum, because the other one was a bit too quiet and I was having to bring everything else down, so I've got a fuller bass drum. Changed the sound of the bass guitar, but most importantly I've changed the riff of the bass guitar because it was creating its own hook, which was then putting a tune in my head which is not the main tune. It wasn't that tune that I remember playing as a kid, like I said, which is if I get back to the main guitar sample, which is on here. That was going out the window because I was remembering this bass riff, which was different. So the intro is now different, so that the hook is what it should be. So the intro now sounds like this. So you can hear that bass riff is consistent with the guitar riff, bass drum is fuller, and then we get into the main bit. And then it sort of explodes from there to the theme tune that you'll now be familiar with by now, hopefully. So just wanted to add that in there completely. And I'll put the main tune at the end, I guess.